Now, I do have a potentially controversial or hot take in this episode of the Heart Centered Business podcast, but I'm going to start off with one that I think most people will agree with, and that is that our algorithms and news feeds these days are full of content that we just don't want, especially AI-generated slop content, which is a specific genre of content that is purposefully designed to stop you scrolling, get you watching, keep you distracted, and ultimately doesn't deliver anything of particular value. Sometimes AI slop is engagement bait, it's rage bait, it's opinion bait, but it doesn't need to be that in order to be AI slop. In addition, bot-generated content or bot-overrun content can also change our experience of social media. Personally, I cannot stand how bot and AI our social media feeds have become these days. I know there are lots of people who actually don't mind it, but for me, I really can't stand it. But that's not my hot take. My hot take is that all of this bot-driven and AI-driven content is actually doing us a favor as online business owners, and I'm going to explain all of it in this episode of the Heart Centered Business podcast. This is episode number 493, which means you can find all the relevant links and the show notes of today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/493. And it's also day 8 of the Tashmas episodes. And so I have a special gift for you at the end of the episode today as well. But I think that AI slop and bots have done us a favor, and I want to have the opportunity to share why. So let's dive in. Hello, I'm Tash Corbin, a business strategist and mentor based on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. The mission of this podcast is to help heart-centered entrepreneurs to make more money, and in doing so, change the world for the better. This podcast was recorded on the lands of the Gubbi Gubbi and Jinnaburra people. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. To kick off this episode, I first want to acknowledge that the prolific production of AI content and also the rise of bot accounts on social media has made it more challenging for us as humans to connect with each other on social media. And it absolutely has made it more challenging for businesses in particular to generate organic reach and growth on social media. We are competing with content that has been AI generated specifically to generate engagement, to generate shares, to generate that sucking of the attention span of people who are on social media. And I don't want to downplay or underestimate the impact of that at all, because I absolutely see, especially for people in the early stages of startup, people who are in the early stages of growing a following on social media, it can really feel like you are just screaming into the void when it comes to creating content on social media and trying to get your content in front of people that are going to genuinely engage with it, want to learn from you, want to connect with you. So I do not share this episode of the podcast lightly, and I do not want to gloss over the particular challenges that AI-generated and bot-generated content can bring up for us as online business owners and as people who want to genuinely connect with other humans online. I mean, the other experience that I've seen people having, especially when they've got a new account on social media or they have a very small following on social media, is that the only comments they're getting are now from bots. The only engagement they're getting is from automations. And so even though they are a human generating content and sharing opinions and sharing advice online, they can't seem to get their content in front of other humans. It's only being shown to bot accounts. So I absolutely acknowledge and understand the frustration that will bring up for people. In addition, I want to acknowledge a certain type of privilege that I think a lot of people in the online space who've been around for a while do not consciously bring to the surface and acknowledge when they talk about social media strategy. And that privilege is that I started my business and my Facebook page in 2013. So I have, in essence, a 12-year head start on anyone trying to build a following today. Now, that is one of my biggest frustrations when I am working with people in startup, when people come across the work that I do and the strategies that I share. A lot of what they are saying to me as what they have been taught are either strategies that worked 6 to 8 years ago, or they're strategies that would work for someone who already has an audience today, but would not work for someone who is starting out. And because I have the Takeoff program and I specifically work with people who are in the early stages of growing a following and a business online, I have made it my business to stay very up to date with what works and what doesn't for people in the very early stages of business, and in particular, people who are starting from scratch with social media and building a following online. A lot has changed in social media since I started my business. For example, when I first started my business, you could turn your algorithm off. And what I mean by that is you could actually set your newsfeed on Facebook to show you only posts from pages and profiles that you were connected to. And then ads came in once every 6th or 7th post, but it would literally show you those posts in time order from most recent to least recent. So I still remember the times in Facebook where I would log into my Facebook account on a daily basis and I would scroll through my newsfeed until I got to the last post I saw yesterday. Like literally, I could keep up with everyone who I was friends with and every single one of their posts when I used Facebook many, many years ago. Now, to try and do that these days would be absolutely impossible, but also you cannot turn the algorithm off anymore. Now, I do know that they are putting this as a potential decision in Europe at the moment, and there is a huge campaign that just started in Australia to allow people to opt out of the algorithm. Fingers crossed that that actually becomes a thing, absolutely. But I also want to just temper that with, without the algorithm, there was no way to get your page content in front of anyone you weren't already connected to, other than posting in groups where there were new people. So the strategies we needed to use were very different back in those days. You either had to pay for ads or be very prolific in Facebook groups, because most people had their newsfeed set as a time-based newsfeed rather than an algorithmic newsfeed. All of that to say, the algorithms are different. The strategies we need to use to grow our following on social media are different. And the type of content that we are seeing perform really well is different. Now, that is the case, absolutely. And I wanted to acknowledge that up front because I wanted to reassure you, number one, that I'm not sharing this through the lens of what worked to start my business in 2013, but also number two, to demonstrate that I am across this, right? as someone who mentors and works directly with people in the early stages of business very regularly, I am across what is going on when it comes to social media algorithms, content creation, content strategy, and, what people are leaning into and experimenting with and what works. Now, if you specifically are fascinated by this concept of AI slop and you'd like to learn more about it, there is one YouTube video that I absolutely recommend, and I'll pop a link to this in the show notes of today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/493. And it's actually John Oliver doing a whole segment of his show Last Week Tonight on AI slop. He covers why it exists, how it's generated, and what it's specifically designed to do in relation to algorithms, but also us as human beings. It is John Oliver, so just a little warning, he can be a little bit crass sometimes, but it's very comedically done, but it is a really, really important and really well-researched deep dive. So I would recommend that one, and I'll see if I can find it and pop a link in the show notes. Now, all of that to say that the landscape of social media is different. Algorithms are different these days. And so we need to be mindful of that. But there's one thing that hasn't changed when it comes to social media and why we still do it. And that is that social media is social. It is a space in which we can connect with other humans. We can stay up to date with what's going on with each other. We can stay up to date with what's going on in the world. We can connect with people we wouldn't normally have the opportunity to meet. And it is a social platform. Now, these days, with a lot of AI content, a lot of automations, and a lot of bots, it can feel like your bot's just talking to someone else's bot. And I say that being a person who doesn't have a bot on social media, but you know what I mean, right? It feels a little bit like there is a bit of disconnect there, but that's the point of this episode. I 100% believe that the people that I want to reach on social media are not picking up their phones to read bot-generated content. They're not picking up their phones and scrolling their feed to try and see what the latest AI slop is. They are picking up their phones because they are looking for connection with other human beings. They are looking to be entertained or educated or in some way feel seen and heard and validated, or to hear what is going on for other people. It's human to human after all. So those who are social on social media, those who do connect with other humans on social media are still rewarded. They are still rewarded. The challenge that we have is getting the opportunity to have that connection, getting the opportunity to be social on social media. So we need to ensure that we are focused on finding those opportunities and finding those other humans, absolutely. But if we come at social media as business owners through the lens of this is social, this is human to human, this is an opportunity for connection, your experience as a business owner of using social media can be vastly different. Not only that, as we get more AI slop, bot-driven accounts, bot-driven content, AI-generated content in our news feeds, the difference between an AI bot account and a human account is becoming far easier to spot. It's becoming more obvious, and the difference is measurable. Now, I think that there is nuance to this. There are humans who use AI to supplement their content on social media. I do think it is getting easier and easier to spot that as well, especially the more that you are involved and online and seeing those conversations. But the very AI generated, the very bot driven is becoming far more obvious as well. I am consistently finding myself asking the question, who created this and why? And if it's not clear of the human intention behind it, the human involvement behind it, this has been generated by AI or by a bot, and all it's done is it's been designed to hold my attention. That's what it's doing. I was sharing on a takeoff call recently that I've actually unsubscribed from more than 50 mailing lists over November of 2026 because I can absolutely see AI has written the emails I'm receiving. And whilst that is absolutely the person's prerogative to use AI to write emails to me, I don't subscribe to newsletters to hear what their AI is telling me or wants me to know. I subscribe to newsletters because I deeply value the human written word. I subscribe to newsletters because I want to hear what that person is up to. I want to hear that person's advice on things. And if I don't get access to that by being on a mailing list, I'm not going to be on the mailing list. There are some people who I've unsubscribed from their mailing list, but I still follow them on social media because on socials, I get access to hearing them speak because they're still sharing video content that is themselves speaking. And so that to me is like a really good demonstration of it's totally their prerogative, right? I'm not here to judge someone for using AI to write emails. All I'm here saying is if someone uses AI to write emails and it's quite obvious they're using AI to write emails, I choose to unsubscribe from that content. And it's the same on socials. If someone is a really beautiful, prolific writer in their emails, but on socials they're just repurposing that and chopping it all up using AI tools, then I don't need to follow them on socials because I'm getting the best of their content over on email. And so I'll choose to consciously unsubscribe and unfollow on social media. Now, I know as well in saying all of this that I'm probably the minority in that I am purposefully and intentionally checking in to see the extent to which I feel I'm getting access to the human via email, via socials, via feature content, and purposefully choosing to unfollow or unsubscribe where I feel I'm not getting access to the human there. But I absolutely believe that people are also doing that, even if it's not at a conscious level, they're doing it unconsciously by the way that they choose to engage. And that's what makes such a difference. And this is where I say that AI, Slop, and bots have actually done us a favour. Because they have become so prolific so quickly, it's like there's this conscious or unconscious readjustment of the way that people engage online and what people are looking for on social media and in their inboxes. And a great example of this is actually the survey that was done by Business Insider recently, where they surveyed something like 5,000 Instagram users. So it wasn't a huge sample size, but they surveyed 5,000 Instagram users, and over 40% of people said that if by commenting on something on social media, they received an obvious bot message, they would not engage with that account again. And that's really powerful to know, right? And in the days of ManyChat and all of those chatbots and everything that's going on social media, I've even seen this myself. I follow a bunch of people on Instagram, but they are training me not to engage with their content because if I accidentally use a word that is an obvious ManyChat prompt, I end up with 16 ManyChat messages in my inbox, in my DMs from that person, and I don't want that. So there are accounts that I follow from industry leaders, from people that I really love and admire, and I love their videos, but I don't engage with their content. I don't comment on their content anymore because I don't want a flurry of emails because I accidentally used one of their many chat words. And so we are seeing this over and over again. People are starting to get a bit like, oh, this is grinding my gears. I don't want your bot to come and yell at me because I accidentally used the word marketing when I commented on your post on social media. And so we are seeing this more and more, that people do not like being botted. They do not like being lured into something that's fake and then finding out it was AI generated as well. And we've got lots and lots of people giving advice and instructions on how to spot when a video is AI generated, when an image is AI generated, some of the watermarks and some of the tags, but also just some of the very obvious signs that something is not real. And so I love that there are people out there making it their mission to help educate us so that we can spot the difference between AI and non-AI generated content. I also love that we're seeing new social media platforms or resurgences of old social media platforms where they've got an AI ban, where they've got other strategies to stop AI-generated content, to stop bot-type engagement happening on those social platforms. I love that, right? So we are seeing this pushback because they became so prolific so quickly. And that's where they've done us a favor. People are on social media to socialize. They are on social media to connect, to have a human-to-human experience. And therefore, if you are looking to connect with humans on social media as a business owner, you will be rewarded more and more for that human-to-human connection. So how do we stand out online and harness this pushback, harness this proliferation of AI and bot-generated content and accounts? Well, the first is remember you are a human and show up as your perfectly imperfect human self. The days of perfectly photoshopped images are done. Unless you are a creator who is, you're wanting to be a model or you're wanting to be an influencer because of a beautiful aesthetic, right? If you want to connect with people human to human, the best thing you can do is show up as a human. I've even seen it from some of my favorite decluttering and interior design accounts where they used to share images and videos of perfectly manicured spaces and absolutely interior decorated within an inch of their life rooms. They're actually now sharing very realistic photos and very livable and lived in spaces because there's just so much perfected content out there. The way to show up and shine through, the way to stand out is to be imperfect, is to be very human. And so the more that you can apply that to your content area, as well as the visual and written component of your content online, the more you will be rewarded. And that is a beautiful thing. People want to see selfies. They want to see you out and about. They want to see behind the scenes. They want to see the human experience. Even if part of your brand is perfection. For example, let's say you're a copywriter or a copy editor. Therefore, having spelling mistakes in your written content would feel like it's completely off brand for you. You don't need to have spelling mistakes for your writing to look human. And copywriters and copy editors are probably the best at spotting what is AI-generated content and therefore ensuring that they're not falling into a pattern of writing in that way. They are far more effective at bringing that humanness into their written content, which I think is spectacular. When I think about the content that really gets me engaging, gets me reading, gets me listening along, it is that very human kind of content. People telling stories, people asking questions. When it comes to photos, mostly selfies or just those really candid shots. Face-to-camera videos that aren't perfectly edited within an inch of their life. Face-to-camera videos where I can see you had a thought while you're sitting at your desk, you just popped your camera on and started sharing it. And I even have set up at my desk now a little tripod and a handheld microphone, and I'm getting into that habit of doing that more myself, where I have a little pop-up thought of, oh, I'd really love to create some content around that. Yes, I can do it in longer form here on the podcast, but I'm also recording those shorter form reels and I'm just doing it one take. There's some ums and ahs in there. It's very human. It's not at all perfect, but it's doing quite well in terms of content. And people comment on it more, saying things like, oh, it's so lovely to see you in my news feed. And so it's being rewarded with engagement simply for existing and people recognizing my face. Now, I understand, again, I acknowledge I've been in business since 2013. I have almost 10,000 followers on Instagram. I have over 10,000 followers on Facebook. I understand that. And I understand that I have a relationship with thousands of people. But those relationships were built over time with this same approach of being human to human. And the more consistently you show up as a human, the more even strangers will stop and watch your content now, right? Because we are so over the perfectly manicured AI generated or AI enhanced photos and videos. We're not into that stuff. We don't want that. That's not why we're on socials. And we're falling for it less and less. I still fall for it, right? I still fall for it here and there for sure. But less and less I'm drawn to it. And I love that. It used to be that if an image had words over it, or it had a watermark, or it had, your website down the bottom, that looked like an ad, so people scrolled past much faster. That's still the case, right? Those types of contents look like ads, so people scroll much faster. But the signs that a piece of video content or even just a photo that doesn't have the watermarks and the words over it is an ad are becoming more obvious, and we're quicker to look for them as well. And so we're quicker to scroll on by when things it becomes obvious that something is an ad. So selfies, face-to-camera videos, having a conversational tone, being present is a big one. That is how we have that human-to-human experience, right? And I don't mean being present by be online prolifically 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. I just mean that when someone sends you a message on your Facebook page or to your Instagram, instead of them getting a bot response immediately, which basically says, I ain't here, I'll get back to you when I can, it's 90% of the ones that I get, or I don't check this inbox, so you're in the wrong place, lovey, right? Instead of receiving those kinds of autoresponders when we message your page or your Instagram, if we don't get a response, we're like, ooh, there's a human at the helm of this, right? If you don't get an immediate response, you're like, oh, there's a human here. This is going to be viewed by a human. And so when I receive a response from you 1 day later, 2 days later, I'm not cranky. I'm not upset. I'm not impatient about that. I'd rather wait for you. It's the same as, have you ever called a call center these days, and the moment the robot voice starts talking to you, do you yell, human, human, human? Representative, right? I definitely do that when I call. And so I'm willing to sit on hold and wait to talk to a human rather than sitting and clicking through and pressing 16 numbers to try and get an automated answer. And people are doing that on social media these days as well. So it means that being present actually may mean for you that people get responded to a little later, but they get a response from you. And actually, I shared this story with some biz friends at dinner the other night. And I want to share this on the podcast too, because I think it's really symbolic of what I'm talking about here. I followed a new account that I found through Reels on Instagram, and it was someone who was giving really good video tips and how to get a message across and share a story in 60 seconds. Really interesting content. And so I sent a message after following the account to say, hey, just wanted to reach out and say thank you for this particular reel. That was really helpful for me. And I didn't get a response straight away. It took about 5 minutes and I got a reply and it said, thank you so much. It's great to have you as a follower. What is it specifically that you're looking for help with your video? And so I replied and said, well, actually, I think maybe we should have a little conversation because I run a business conference and I think what you're sharing would be really helpful for the people who come to my conference. And I got a reply that said, wow, that's really exciting because it sounds like my upcoming webinar would be the perfect fit for you. And it was at that moment that Tash realized she'd been talking to a bot, not a human. Here's the thing. I don't like being duped. People don't like being duped. It would be different if it was like, hi, this is my auto-generated message to tell you da-da-da-da, but it literally was designed in a way to make it look like I was talking to the person. So what did I do as a result? Number one, I unfollowed that account. Number two, I went and Googled and started searching for other people who provided similar services and advice because it had planted the seed that I wanted someone like that to teach us at conference, but I didn't want that person to teach us at conference because they made me feel duped. And the whole vibe of both virtual conference and in-person conference is this human-to-human connection, and that person with their strategy basically told me they don't value human-to-human connection. So what a brilliant demonstration of how potentially avoiding conversations with humans can actually cost you great opportunities, but also drive people straight to your competitors. But here's the big way that we can capitalize on what these bots and AI slop have done in terms of doing us a favor. And that is to go back to using social media socially, or to use social media as a way to deepen relationships with people you've met through other channels. So it might be that you go to more in-person networking events and then you connect with people on social media from there. It might be that you go to digital events, right? You're in online courses. You actually develop relationships with the people that you're doing these programs with. Or you are going to online events and you build connections with people at those events. The days of, hey, let's just follow each other before we've ever had a conversation are likely coming to an end. I think people are far more reserved about who they follow and who they choose to ask to follow them or to engage with on socials as well. But if you use social media as the follow-up process to those conversations, to those connections and to that relationship building, it can be really, really effective. So things like meeting people in real life or meeting people online but through other channels are really effective at meaning that the followers that you do have are more likely to engage, and they are also there valuing that human-to-human connection and that social side of social media. But I think this is the big thing for me, and that is that it's like every opportunity that we have to build relationships with people, to build connections with people, almost feels like it gets ruined by people who are trying to overdo it, right? So, you know, if you've ever been to a networking event where there's 50 people and there's always like 3 or 4 people in the room who you know it's their mission to try and talk to every single person. Like that is their measure of success. They are so quantity driven that they're not actually meeting anyone. They're just business card spamming everyone. Well, we see that in online spaces as well, right? And so if I join an online course, for example, and there's a few obvious people who friend request every single person who's in the course with them without ever having spoken to any of those people, I ain't accepting that friend request. But if there are people inside that course who are genuinely asking questions, who are engaging with the content, who are sharing human experiences as well, sharing their resistance, sharing what's coming up for them, They are the kinds of people that I want to connect with. And so again, the people who are trying to game the system become far more obvious when we see there are so many people trying to game the system. And so it's those more quiet people, it's those more depth of conversation people are the ones that are walking away with far more valuable relationships from these experiences. So build relationships, but be giving in building those relationships. Be human in building those relationships. And don't try and game the relationship building system, right? It's the same as when the creator profiles were introduced on Facebook and it was like everyone was in a race to see who could get 5,000 friends first or 5,000 followers on their creator profile first. But all they were doing was spam friend requesting. And whilst that worked for a hot minute, probably between 2019 and 2021, now I know people who say, oh, if I see someone has over 2,000 friends on their Facebook profile, I know I'm just a number to them. I'm not going to accept that friend request. So the thing that used to be the badge of honor, look how many friends I've got on my profile, look how many followers I've got, now becomes a moment for people to take a step back and be a bit more discerning. It now is a sign to people that potentially you're just scalping the internet for numbers. You're not actually developing human-to-human relationships and connections. That's powerful insight. That is powerful data for us to understand. And I think the worse it gets, the better it gets for those people who are actually still valuing the human-to-human connection. And this is the type of connection that I really put a lot of energy and effort into facilitating at the Heart Centre Business Conference, both virtual and in person. A lot of people comment when they come to virtual conference that they didn't realize how different of an experience it was going to be compared to other summits and conferences and things that they've attended online. But I know the big value of the Heart Centre Business Conference, both virtual and in person, is not just who you get to learn from and what you're going to learn. It's far more valuable that you are getting those relationships, connecting with other people, growing your network, but in a very meaningful way, rather than just that spammy, I'll take any friend request I can get kind of way, right? But I don't want you to wait for a Tash Corbin facilitated event to start engaging on socials in this way, or start playing with how you incorporate this into your strategy to stand out online. People can get very attached to the result of engaging in social media in a certain way, but that just means that you show up in a disconnected way. If you're just counting the number of people in your network, if you're just counting the number of followers you have, then you're not valuing the human-to-human connection, right? You're just looking for numbers. So instead, if I said to you that your job today, as a result of listening to this podcast, is to go and make 3 new friends, could you just do that? Just for today, just go and make 3 new friends. Now, we are adults, we are humans. We don't make friends the way that we used to, i.e., I really like you, do you want to go play, right? It's not exactly the same experience these days. But could you actually go and make friends with people, whether that be online or in real life? If I said to you, your only job today is to go and make 3 friends. Isn't that to me, that's a magical thing. Now, I am a connector in archetypes, right? I am an extrovert. I do love humans. But if you have an online business where you're trying to help people, I don't care whether you're introverted or not. I don't care whether you've got connector high in your archetypes or not, right? That's not the point. The point is, in order for you to help humans, you need to connect with humans. In order for you to sell to humans, you need to connect with humans. And whether it's a natural skill set or not, it is absolutely something that is readily available to us instantly right now online. Absolutely. And to devalue that, to write that off, to say, well, what's the point of making 3 new friends today, as being a waste of time as a business owner, I think is overlooking the very opportunity that sits in front of us at this point in time, and with the way that AI and bot generated content is going online as well. And I'm so excited for it. I'm so excited for this surge of people looking for more human to human connection. And I honestly believe that if online business owners, whether you've got 30 people in your network or 30,000 people in your network right now, if online business owners invest a little bit of time each day to just go and make a friend, and to call someone a friend, you need to know something about them, right? You can't just have them know your name. You can't just have them accept a friend request, right? That's different. I mean, an actual friend. If you more consistently just start your day thinking, what new friend might I meet today and how might I meet them? You will, over time, snowball the most powerful, supportive, uplifting, high referral network that anyone could wish for as a business owner. And now that we know how much people value referrals, how much people value having a connection to someone before buying, how much more that builds that trust, I really think that there's this beautiful opportunity ahead of us as we step into 2026 to embrace social media in a very different way, to stop trying to game it for numbers, to stop trying to measure our success based on vanity metrics, and to start really using these platforms to build human-to-human connections. I know that if Facebook was to shut down today, end of day today, Facebook shuts down, I could list off 1,500 to 2,000 people that I would go and look for via other platforms. And that's not because I have tens of thousands of people in the Heart Centre community. That's not because I have thousands of followers on Instagram and Facebook. That's not even because I have 5 figures of people in my mailing list. The reason why I could list off those 1,500 to 2,000 people is because I consider them friends, because I know who they are, because I know about them, because I'm interested in them. And I want to ensure that our relationship continues beyond the limitations of a single platform. And that is a really powerful thing for me to know as a business owner, to know as a human, to know as someone who really values relationships and connection as well. One of the very fear-mongery reasons why people say you should build a mailing list is because your network is built on borrowed land when you grow an audience on a social platform, right? Like if you build a following on a Facebook page, that page can be taken away. And I absolutely agree with that. That's very sound business strategy advice, right? To move as many people from your socials into also following you on email and being on your mailing list, so that if, heaven forbid, touch wood, like anything could happen to your socials, that you would have another way to communicate with those people en masse, right? Absolutely. I 100% agree with that as a business strategy. But if that's the only way that you would be able to re-establish your network is shallow. Your audience does not have a connected relationship with you. And I think that's a priority to focus on building, as well as having other opportunities to connect with them. Okay, I'm going to close up this episode by saying I know that for some people, the idea of this move towards more connection and deeper relationships doesn't sound like a joy to them, right? They would love to have a business where they could just churn out content, make a bunch of sales, make money in their sleep, blah, 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 blah. I totally understand that, right? Especially after the year that's been. And for a lot of people, they're feeling particularly burnt out. They're feeling particularly tired. You know, there's a lot going on in the world and we're very strung out and distracted. Let's just say that. So I understand that this idea of, oh my gosh, now I have to go and learn about all the people that follow me. I have to go and learn about this. You know, I know for some people that doesn't feel like it's a joyful experience, But even for those people, if I said you can live in a world where you have strong offline relationships, people deeply care about who you are, and you have people that you deeply care about, and your business is fulfilling in terms of human-to-human connection beyond just the money that it generates, I do know that for a large portion of those people, that actually does feel good. It's just that what we perceive as the workload to get there in our brain feels like it might not be a fun and enjoyable experience. And especially if your experience of social media in the past has been, I feel like I'm putting my heart and soul into this. I feel like I'm putting so much energy into this. I'm putting so much work into my content and I'm getting nothing in return. Of course, that's going to feel like that road is a hard road to go down. But what I'm saying is that it can be far less energy, far less content creation, far less pouring your heart and soul into stuff and not having anyone read it if we see this shift towards human-to-human connection and this shift back into social media is deeply social as the driver of an accelerated growth of a network that doesn't just have people who are content consumers. It actually has people who want to see you succeed. It has people who actively share what it is that you offer, actively tell their friends that they should be following you as well, right? Like that's the part that gets me deeply excited. And I hope that it excites you too. And that brings me to today's Tashmas gift, because it is day 8 of Tashmas, which is an opportunity for us to connect human to human in a 90-minute one-on-one VIP session that you can win simply by having your ticket to the Heart Centre Business Conference in Noosa and then coming and telling me on the day 8 Tashmas post why. Why are you coming? So if you've already got your ticket, just go and find the day 8 post and tell me why you bought a ticket. What's your number one driver? Maybe 2 or 3 reasons why you want to come to the Heart Centre Business Conference in Noosa. If you don't have your ticket yet, but you were intending to buy one, number one, the current payment plan is closing at the end of Tashmas. So this is your final opportunity to grab it on the 8-month payment plan. Number 2, the early bird ticket price will be closing in the first quarter of next year. So this is also an opportunity to grab a ticket at a discounted price. And number 3, if you purchase your ticket before the 12th of December and come to the day 8 post and tell me why you just bought your ticket, you will also be entered in the prize draw to win a 90-minute one-on-one VIP session with me. And out of all of the Tashmas opportunities to win VIP time working with me on your business, this one is going to have the smallest number of entries because there's a very limited number of tickets to conference. We have less than half of the tickets remaining. And number 2, like not all of the people who have a ticket to conference listen to this podcast. So you probably got a competition scope of about 25 to 30 people, a 1 in 25 to 30 person chance of winning a 90-minute session, which is normally a $2,000 purchase price. So if that is something that you are interested in, make sure you come and check out the show notes today. I'll have all the instructions for you over at tashcorbin.com/493. But again, please don't wait for virtual conference or in-person conference to embrace this human-to-human connection, this deeply social network that we are part of, and see the difference that it makes in your experience of business when you do it hand in hand with other people who also value human-to-human connection. It really is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centre Business Podcast. And until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now.